It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be podsmacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
Hello. Welcome to the show. Episode number 151 of the show. We had our sesquicentennial. And we're on to our bicentennial. That's coming up in 50 episodes. Welcome to the show, guys. Glad to have you joining me. A lot of stuff to get to. Certainly going to be talking a little bit more about Charlottesville. And we're going to talk a lot about the insane childishness being shown on either side of the equation. But I want to thank our sponsors for the show. Dr. Alex Nelson, chiropractor. Chiropractic has changed my life. You ever had sciatica? It sounds like, it's an old people disease. Well, no, the first time I had sciatica, I was 33 years old. Pinched nerve in the lower back, you can't even get out of bed. You got to be helped out of the bed. Chiropractic fixed it. You got low back pain, shoulder pain, carpal tunnel, neuropathy. Some nerve damage in your hands and your feet. It's not damage, but the nerves in your hands and feet, your feet are hot. You can't feel it's weird. I got some of that going. Fountainoflifechiro.com, fountainoflifechiro.com. They're in Kansas City on North Congress Avenue, 816-741-4711. Again, fountainoflifechiro.com. Also, Grass Monsters KC. If you need a zero-turning radius mower that is American-made that'll last you, pretty much the rest of your life. You got to check out the Dixie Chopper line of mowers made in Indiana or the Hustler line of mowers made in Kansas. I'll tell you what, the Dixie Chopper Silver Eagle is what I have in the garage, up to a 60-inch deck. This is a commercial mower. But if you got more than 1 acre, it really, really is amazing. It's got a twist blade to the existing X blade, and the mulching performance is ridiculous. Literally, I have mowed my neighbor's yard when it was 8 inches high, and looks like a golf course. All right, that is the Dixie Chopper Silver Eagle. Again, grassmonsterskc.com, grassmonsterskc.com. CBS News actually had a moment of clarity the other night. Yeah, it was last night, actually. Today is the 17th. He had 3 Republican women on, 2 of them actually black women. Clearly, they are sellouts. They are Uncle Toms or Uncle, what would be a female version of Uncle Tom? Uncle Teresa? I don't know. Here they are, the 3 Republican women talking about the attacks on Donald Trump since Charlottesville. Donald Trump's comments about what happened in Charlottesville, saying that there was hate on either side. There were good people on either side. And they had the audacity to actually appear on CBS News.
Has your support for Trump lessened one bit?
Absolutely not.
Not at all.
No. Not one bit.
No, I don't look at him as, my pastor or my moral leader. I look at him as the leader as it relates to governmental issues.
We're not looking for somebody charming. We're looking for a man who knows how to turn things around. And he's got a track record of turning things around.
When you saw Charlottesville, what did that say about where we are as a country?
It wasn't necessarily a completely black-white issue, but I think that the media is turning it into a black-white issue.
And the reason they're doing it is because they want to bring down the president. This is the latest attack on Donald Trump. It is blood in the water. It is chum in the water to the sharks of those who want to see Donald Trump out of office.
It's definitely a left-right issue, but it's left fringe and right fringe.
The Confederate statues don't bother you?
No.
Whoa. Was that a black woman who just said that?
It's history. I wasn't born back then. You wasn't either.
You weren't a slave? I wasn't? What?
So why is that affecting us? If anything, we should grow and learn from it. Just like Martin Luther King said, you don't judge people by the color of their skin. You base that on their character.
Whoa. I know it's kind of an odd thing, but I think that was actually once called common sense. I'm not sure.
How do you explain what your support is for a president, given the criticism that he's had on this race issue?
I think for myself, period. Nobody's going to tell me what to think or how to think. I'm not gullible and I'm not blind. It's my decision if I'm going to support someone or not go by what other people has to say. And to me, what I've seen and what I love, he's not going to lose my support anytime soon. I've been a Republican before,
Donald Trump, I will be a Republican afterwards. I honestly don't think we will see this issue of racial divide addressed until we remove identity politics out of the political process.
Yes. And where did identity politics really take hold in this country? The last 8 years, folks. The last 8 years. Us and them. Whether it be your race, whether it be your sex, whether it be your religion. Unbelievable. Donald Trump on Monday. You heard Donald Trump fighting back on Monday. He came back and tried to clarify some of the things that he said. Actually, Monday he came back and he said that neo-Nazis are bad. Okay, and that's what the left wanted to hear. All right, but the problem is that he did not condemn the right people. He decided to condemn them all. He didn't target those. And by the way, Nazis are, in case you want to know, Nazis are not conservative. They're not on the right side of the political spectrum. Nazis are socialists. Nazis are socialist, okay? Read your history about the Nazi Party. What did Adolf Hitler do when he became chancellor? He made sure that government health care was there, and he took away guns. He was a socialist. That's it. That's all. So it's not a right thing when you look at Nazism. But anyway, the president came back on Monday and he targeted the people that the left insisted that he target, but then he also made the mistake of saying that Antifa, BLM, you just heard from the Black Lives Matter, that they were part of this too, but it's not good enough. You cannot pin anything negative on the left side of the political equation. Even though Black Lives Matter is a violent mob. It is a violent mob. You don't believe me? Look at Berkeley. You don't believe me? Look at what happened on Inauguration Day. Burning limousines, wrecking storefronts. They call themselves the Antifa. Such a stupid name, by the way. Such a stupid name. The Antifa. We're anti-fascist. Then what do? For instance, at Berkeley, they were protesting someone coming to speak, Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo Yiannopoulos has been called a white supremacist. He's not a white supremacist. He's a conservative speaker. I don't particularly care for the man, but he just wanted to come and speak. Okay, this is a microcosm of what happened in Charlottesville. Milo Yiannopoulos invited to come speak. The violent Antifa, armed, shows up, wrecks the place. It's so funny. This is just remarkable if you think about it. The Antifa, brown shirts, show up at a Milo Yiannopoulos speech. They break out the windows of the building. They say, bring his book and burn it in the public square. It happened at night. So you've got, let me see here. You've got burning books in the public square, and you've got a night of broken glass. Where have we heard that before? I don't know. I think we've heard this before. CNN's Don Lemon, who's just a moron, talking about Donald Trump not just targeting the right side of the political equation and forgiving what the Antifa and BLM have done in this country.
Protest groups, and they were talking about Antifa or Antifa, however you want to pronounce it, calling them the alt-left.
He doesn't even know how to pronounce the friggin' name.
Well, that group protests fascism, so they were there protesting.
They do it by being fascistic, you moron.
Fascism. Maybe their tactics weren't exactly right.
Yeah, I don't know, physical violence, pepper spray, urine bombs, fecal bombs, baseball bats. Listen how easily he dismisses this.
All groups like that, political groups, rights groups, protest groups, it's messy.
Unbelievable. It's messy. All right, so if you show up and you disagree with these neo-Nazis, and I do, but my friend on Facebook thinks that I am sympathetic to them. No, I'm not. I just wouldn't show up to their protest with baseball bats. I wouldn't just show up to crack some heads. A lot of people, establishment Republicans, angry at Donald Trump because and I don't understand it, guys. He's clearly condemning violence and misbehavior on both sides of the political equation, but he's not just condemning one side. And even people like Charles Krauthammer are siding against Trump. And I respect Dr. Krauthammer, but I think he's full of, Here he is on Fox News, and Laura Ingraham, I guess, if I were going to use an expression, ate his ass for lunch. Here we go.
What Trump did today was a moral disgrace. What he did is he reverted back to where he was on Saturday.
Now, he's talking about the presser at Trump Tower where Donald Trump answered questions and defended the fact that there were good people on both sides and there were bad people on both sides.
And made it very clear that what he read on Sunday, was it Monday, 2 days later? Monday. Was a hostage tape. Clearly reading off a prompter, saying these denunciations by name of the KKK.
Meanwhile, you had a president who read everything off the prompter for 8 years.
Etc.
This, honestly, Dr. Krauthammer, screw you. I've put up with you for a long time, and I've respected a lot of things you've had to say. But if you're going to join this crowd, I'm done with you.
That wasn't Trump speaking. That was the aide speaking. The reason it's a moral disgrace is this. This generation, for the last 50, 60 years, all the modern presidents, you can go all the way back. You can say Woodrow Wilson was exempt. But beyond that, understood there was something unique about the history of slavery and racism in this country, that we had to cure this original sin.
Of course.
It was not cured by the Civil War, as Lincoln had hoped.
It also was the way of the world. It was the way of the world. And it still is in a lot of countries.
Because it was followed by 100 years of state-sponsored oppression. It began to be cured with civil rights, equality of rights, and this generation, the last 50 or so years, has done a splendid job in redeeming itself. What Trump is...
But unfortunately, some are trying to drag us back to 1968.
Missing here is the uniqueness of white supremacy, KKK, and Nazism. Yes, there were bad guys on both sides. That's not the point.
Yes, it is.
This was instituted. The riot began over a Nazi riot.
It wasn't a riot. It was not a riot. It was a protest, sir. They had a permit. And if you didn't pay attention to it, nobody would have even known. But there were those on the left who arrived to stop the speech through violence. Honestly, of all the people, all the well-educated people in the world, Charles Krauthammer, I would expect much better from you. Here's Laura Ingraham.
Racism is evil. Those who engage in violence are criminals and thugs. I guess what Charles just said is Donald Trump doesn't mean that. Now, if you're going to say Donald Trump's a racist, or he's stupid, or he's some dumb troglodyte who's just doing a hostage tape, I guess you can tell all our Fox viewers that. And I resent that you just said it was a cop-out, what I said on this set. To critique what he did today is what we were asked to do on the show tonight. I'm not going to pass moral judgment on whether Donald Trump is morally on the same plane as you are, Charles. I'm sure you're a better person than he is. He had a moment today where he could have been calm and could have gone through the facts of what happened again, if necessary, and addressed the issue of the day, which is to get this infrastructure going in this country. Getting caught in the trap of the left, which was what the media wants us to do, is not.
That's exactly what happened. When you get a permit and you go to perform a protest, and listen, there were very bad elements, Nazis, KKK, alt-right, whatever, awful people. They were going there to protest. Friday night, they went there to protest. A despicable act. They showed up with torches, sickening Sickening. Protected by the First Amendment. The alt-left, the Antifa. The very next day in Seattle, there was a pro-Trump rally. They went there to crack some skulls. The Antifa went there to crack some skulls. They sprayed silly string in the face of police. They hurled rocks at police. They hurled urine bombs at police. This is the way they are. The Antifa shows up. They're claiming that Trump supporters are fascistic, and they're getting it a pass. Here's a little bit more from the doctor.
We're discussing the unique role of a president of speaking for the moral conscience of a country, going all the way back to Abraham Lincoln. We're not comparing him to me, but comparing him to his great predecessors and to the modern predecessors, who in occasions like this would rise to the occasion, speak on behalf of Americans, and denounce unequivocally
Like he did that.
the people.
He did that.
Yes, but then he tempered it all today. He undid all that by saying, oh, yes, he did it, reading a statement yesterday. But what he really meant is there was anger, violence, evil on both sides.
There was. I honestly, the death of common sense. I don't know what Charles Krauthammer's trying to do. I don't know what he's trying to say. But he's clearly not speaking the truth. He's just not speaking the truth. Don't you realize how dangerous this is? Don't you realize how dangerous it is if we don't protect unpopular speech? But you know what? My friend online, and I said, neo-Nazis are god-awful. They're terrible, terrible people. But their words are protected. That makes me a neo-Nazi, I guess. Unbelievable. I just didn't even know where to go. I don't even know when a good friend says that about you. I just wonder if there's any fixing it. This is agonizing to me. A dear friend of mine basically calling me a Nazi. Heartbreaking. It really is. Black Lives Matter co-founder was on MSNBC, I guess this is on Monday. Executive director, founder of the Dignity Now, Patrisse Cullors, that's her name, basically said that, hate speech is not covered. Here's a little bit about Patrisse Cullors, about Donald Trump's base.
David Duke and the white supremacists who showed up to Charlottesville, that is Trump's base. And
No, it's not. I'm part of Trump's base. I'm neither of those things.
That base is not isolated. It's directly related to Trump's policies and the policies.
Trump's policies? She did the upspeak.
That have continued to harm and kill Black people and our allies. I think.
Okay, this is a complete gobbledygook. Gobbledygook. Trump's policies are continuing to kill Black people. How freaking stupid are you? How freaking stupid are you? You know what's killing Black people in this country? Black people. Yeah, Black people are killing Black people in this country, not Trump's policies. Here she is on the First Amendment, completely misguided and not corrected by the host on MSNBC. Any journalist should know better, but this is MSNBC.
Hate speech, which is what we're seeing coming out of white nationalist groups, is not protected on the First Amendment right.
You're an idiot. You are a complete and utter ignoramus and moron. And God help you if your speech ever becomes unpopular. God help you, Patrisse Cullors, if your speech ever becomes unpopular. "22-year-old Takia Thompson showed up in Durham, North Carolina, and a bunch of her friends. Apparently, they had a Saddam Hussein statue moment. They thought they were really doing something by tearing down a Confederate statue. Well, the sheriff not going to have anything to do with it. Durham County Sheriff Mike Andrews said that And by the way, the police, they didn't pepper spray anybody. They let them do it. They tore down this statue. They spat on it. They stomped on it. They acted like idiots. Here's the thing about this whole movement. This whole movement is guided by children. These are the same children who are claiming that there are hate crimes happening on campuses everywhere, and that there's racism everywhere on campus. It's a load of crap. It's just not there. It's a spoiled, entitled leftist group of people who have never suffered in their lives, and they need to have a crisis. They need to have a crisis. They need to have something to feel victimized. So they make up stuff. They make up stuff like a poop swastika at the University of Missouri, or a guy who's the kid who did the hunger strike at Missouri. His father's a railroad executive worth millions of dollars. He comes down to the University of Missouri, by the way, where he's been in school for 10 years. He's been in school for 10 years. And he claims a racial incident where some rednecks drove by him and yelled some sort of racial epithet. Now, I lived in Columbia, Missouri, and nobody downtown near the university drives around with a Confederate flag and yells racial epithets. It's just bullshit. I mean, it is just complete and utter bullshit. It doesn't happen in Columbia, Missouri. I lived there for 5 years. But that little douchebag creates some sort of movement. He goes on a hunger strike for a day. There was no proof whatsoever that if somebody drove by and yelled a racial epithet at him. There's no proof. There's no license plate number. There's no video. There's no, in a world where you've got a camera on your phone and you could no proof whatsoever. But this guy created a movement which destroyed enrollment at the University of Missouri. What a complete and utter douche. Back to Durham, North Carolina, where protesters in their 20s who've never experienced anything. Maybe I was surprised they didn't have their bike helmets on, to be quite honest, because their whole lives have been raised with bike helmets and hand sanitizer and trophies for everybody. But these kids decided that they were oppressed. They decided to tear down this statue. Well, the president's not going to have anything to do with it.
Last night, we witnessed a blatant violation of the law. We must make clear what is acceptable and what is unacceptable behavior. Again, let me say, no one is getting away with this.
Okay, and they ought to send the little bastards to jail. Okay, this is not Saddam Hussein's statue. This is not the Berlin Wall coming down. It's some spoiled, entitled children who have no freaking clue about history, have never suffered through anything, decided to go there and, validate themselves. Here is Takia Thompson. Listen to what she had to say about why she did it.
I did that because I feel like it's important to tear down these vestiges of white supremacy, because white supremacy is something that we still live with today. And as the statue says, it's dedicated to the boys who wear the gray. And if we have an understanding of history, we know that those boys today wear blue.
Can you believe that? Let's listen to this little ignoramus again.
Live with today, and as the statue says, it's dedicated to the boys who wear the gray. And if we have an understanding of history, we know that those boys today wear blue, and that.
Okay, so she's saying that Confederates are now police. We figured that out. Did you figure that out? If you're on the left side of the political equation, you had no clue. She's basically saying that Confederates, white supremacists, are now police. And she also said, if you understand history. No, if you understand history, you'll know that she's full of shit. A little bit more from Takia.
That statue plays a part in the overall system that keeps its foot on the neck of black people and all oppressed groups.
Okay. That is gobbledygook. that is something that she was taught in school at the university. It is a load of crap. White supremacy. Where did white supremacy come from, folks? We honestly, when you look at white supremacy, and I've only been around since mid '60s when I was born. White supremacy has never been a grand movement in this country for as long as I've been alive. That she claims it is a load of crap. It's created, made up of whole cloth for a generation of people to use as a distraction from the real ills of society, particularly inner city African American society. That's what it is. That's what Ferguson was about. It was a distraction. You had a thug going into a convenience store, stealing, high as he could possibly be, attacking a police officer, attempting to get his gun, charging a police officer shot him, mom's not home, stepdad is at home, kid's got a drug problem, senior in high school. Let's distract from mom. Let's distract from the societal ills of Ferguson, Missouri. Let's blame it on the police. It's a distraction. And that's why things will never get better. And that's why Chicago is in the shape it's in. It'll never get better. If you want to blame a statue, you blame a statue. Statue isn't killing 500, 600, 800 people a year in Chicago. Wounding 3,000. Durham County Manager Wendell Davis, he's a black guy, talking about the vandalism.
In addition, an investigation is presently underway to make certain that the individuals that are responsible for defacing this public monument will be identified and brought to justice. While our community and nation are at odds on numerous matters of public policy, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of all of our citizens exercising civility as we work collectively to be the peaceful community that we all desire.
Yeah. In the meantime, the murders in Chicago, the murders in Gary, the murders in Baltimore, the murders in St. Louis, they're not on the front page because the bad guys are made out of iron and pot metal and granite and marble. Well, it's just stunning. Steve Smith was on Fox News talking about getting rid of statues. In Baltimore, they just moved in at night and they took all the Confederate statues out without any discussion. That's the frightening thing, right? Remember we used to debate things? The city came in and just removed these statues. Do I feel completely comfortable defending Confederate statues? No. But they were removed without thought, without debate, just removed.
When you talk about tearing down statues in the middle of the night without any debate or any discussion, I think that's a bad way. That is Orwellian. That's not
Thank you.
Creating the kind of debate that I think we ought to have. Look, it matters. I mean, some of this stuff is on a case-by-case basis. It's very complicated. I think we ought to be very careful in this country about going and eliminating entire classes of memorials to what our collective history is, whether it's history that we love and history that we want to celebrate, the American Revolution, things that are difficult chapters in our history, like the Civil War and others. You can't erase what's happened by eliminating the monument.
Yep. You can't. The United States of America is a pretty amazing experiment in government, and there are negatives and positives. Some want to think that they want to erase the negative. They also want to think that nothing ever bad happened in France. Nothing bad ever happened in whatever other country. That we are somehow unique in the fact that there was racism and is racism in our country. It happens everywhere. There is no perfect society in the world. But there is one society that strives to be a more perfect union and learns from its mistakes. Parts of that society are refusing to admit that. They want to tear down all of the vestiges of our history. There are some people talking about they want to take Stone Mountain, Georgia, the Confederates there, take the faces off them. There are some who say Al Roker, who, by the way, who's lived very large in this country, and then very small, and then very large, and then he got a gastric band, and then he got very small. But he's lived very large in this country. He's been a wealthy man who gets on TV and talks gibberish and delivers a national weather forecast that nobody gives a shit about. He says, maybe we need to look at the Jefferson Memorial. When this country was founded, slavery was the way of the world. It was the way of the world. It really was. And by the way, in Africa, in some countries in the world, slavery still is the way of the world. In the Middle East, slavery still the way of the world. The difference is those areas don't try to be a more perfect union. Blood was not shed, is not being shed to stop the slavery in these areas. A lot of blood was shed during the Civil War. Michael Eric Dyson talking on, and this is the amazing thing, he is willing to, and people like Don Lemon are willing to defend the Antifa, even though they are a violent mob. Will you just back the hell up and look at the Antifa? These are people who are wearing black handkerchiefs on their faces. They are dressed like ISIS soldiers. They are committing acts of violence. They are hurling urine bombs and fecal bombs and bricks at police. They are a violent mob. They throw a temper tantrum when they don't get their way. They did it at the inauguration this year. They burned buildings. They did it at Berkeley. They've done it in Seattle. They've done it time and time again. They are a violent leftist mob. They are fascistic. But because they equate themselves to a political ideology, that of the left, people like Michael Eric Dyson, who is a leftist academic radical, he's willing to give them a pass.
This man is lethally ignorant, incapable of even having a kindergarten.
Talking about the president, of course. Of course. Let's hear that again. Here we go.
This man is lethally ignorant, incapable of even having a kindergarten's comprehension of the history of race. And for those who say, look, the Confederacy is about history and heritage, it is. The history and heritage of racism, the history and heritage of bigotry, building their sense of biological and, in many cases, theological.
What about Margaret Sanger, the creator of Planned Parenthood? She was a radical racist and eugenist.
And national identity upon a lie, a mythology of white supremacy. The belief that some people are inherently superior and some people are inherently inferior. For the president then to defend the actions against taking down Robert E. Lee or Stonewall Jackson. And remember, these people hated America enough to want to secede.
Meanwhile, there is a statue of Lenin in Seattle.
From it. The people that we claim, Black Lives Matter, the Antifa movement, and so on, are interested in preserving the...
Oh, it's called Antifa. Okay, it's not Antifa. Okay.
Fabric of America. Mr. Miller says, again, that there was violence there, but the problem is to equate the violence in reaction against bigotry with the bigotry itself is to misunderstand the fact that when you go to cancer...
Yes! But bigotry and bigoted speech is protected, you idiot.
Treatment, the radiation is tough treatment, but
oh God, this is where it descends into academic gobbledygook.
It is meant to remove the cancer. So what he fails to understand, and what the president especially fails to understand, is that you are complicit with the worst currents of bigotry in this country when you try to draw a false equivalence between secessionists and racists and Confederate defenders and bigots and neo-Nazis and African American and white people and others who have defended the right of this nation to really seek a path of healing beyond the consternation we see now.
What a load of shit. Honestly, he's talking about the Antifa. He was referring to the Antifa, whatever the hell. What an absolute moron. Honestly, what an academic. See, he's so lost in academia. He has no ability to put together a thought with common sense. Just remarkable. What happens in this country when you use the word racism frequently? What does it usually mean when you call someone a racist? Who's not a racist? I'll just say that. Who's not a racist? It means you're losing an argument. That's what it means. It always comes from the left, and you're losing an argument. My friend online, I guess, inferring that somehow I support neo-Nazis and inferring somehow that I am a racist. You're losing an argument. You use the word racism. I said this literally 25 years ago. I was on a radio station in Columbia, Missouri, and I said, as long as you cry racism, there's no racism. You're going to cheapen real incidences of racism. I saw that coming. And now just crying racism isn't enough anymore. You have to cry white privilege. Is that not enough? Is that white privilege not enough? White privilege doesn't carry the weight that it did just a few months ago. So you claim white supremacy. White supremacy. You're a white supremacist. And now we've even moved beyond that. Now we've moved on to Nazi. You're a Nazi. You're a Nazi. Wow. What is after this? What comes after Nazi? Wholesale slaughter of people because they don't disagree with you? Is that it? Because I can't think of a worse word than Nazi. Think of what could be worse than calling someone a Nazi. What is the left going to bring out next? Because I can't imagine it getting worse. I really can't imagine it getting worse. Somehow it will, though, and it's sad. Representative Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, 70-year-old guy, he compared the president of the United States, the current administration, to Nazis. Again, I don't know how you can get worse than calling people Nazis. I really don't. And I would assume the only thing that comes after the word Nazi, when you call someone the word Nazi, the only thing that could be worse is eliminating them or jailing them, the opposition, that is. Now, that's what they're trying to do with Donald Trump. They're trying to get him out of office. They're trying to turn over the will of the American people, and they're trying to get rid of him. And that's, I guess that's the most logical step. That's fairly obvious. But honestly, once you get to a point where you're calling an administration Nazistic and that there are people in the White House who are Nazis, the only end game after that is removal. Here is this sly Clyburn inferring, although not directly saying, that the Trump administration is Nazistic.
Congressional Black Caucus colleagues will tell you.
Wait. What caucus? What was that? The what caucus? What caucus?
Congressional Black Caucus.
Wait. Is that a group of people who are just together because of the color of their skin?
Congressional Black Caucus.
I think so.
Colleagues will tell you.
Sure.
I've been saying to them that we are approaching the place where we've been before. I was around in the 60s, as you said, and I remember some of the sloganeering, and I remember what some of the political leaders had to say. That was a different day and a different time. We remember from our studies what happened in the 1930s in Germany. I told a business...
He's comparing what happened in the 30s to what is happening in America. Okay.
Group down at Hilton Head several weeks before the election.
Sure.
That what I saw coming
was
a replay of what happened in Nazi Germany.
Now, I do believe in 2008, was it, that Barack Obama appeared in a stadium in Denver, a massive stadium in Denver, where he accepted the Democratic nomination for president. 2007, I guess it was. And there were these Doric columns behind him and large banners behind him and rows of people that he strode through to get to the stage. Wow, where have we seen that before?
The fact of the matter is, Hitler was elected as Chancellor of Germany.
Yes.
He did not become a dictator until later, when people began to be influenced by his foolishness. We just elected a president, and he's got a lot of foolishness going on. And
that makes sense. I mean, there was a lot of foolishness in Germany, and now there's so much foolishness. Do you see that? The Nazis are back.
I'm afraid that too many people are being influenced by that foolishness. And so what we've got to do now is step up and say we are not going to allow any one person to misuse an election and to abuse the process and turn this country back on its head.
Nonsensical. I mean, utterly nonsensical. Just, wow. Cory Gardner had a town hall meeting about this. And there were a lot of people there apparently showed up to Cory Gardner's, he's a Republican, his town hall meeting. And he was confronted by someone who said basically that almost all racists are Republicans. Okay, Republicans aren't all racist, but all racists are Republicans. Here's a little piece of this. I'm going to explain my thoughts about racism and your party.
Republicans are not all racist. They absolutely are not. But almost all racists are Republicans. That's really embarrassing to stand next to.
Okay, that is complete and utter crap. The Democrat Party was founded by racists. The Democrat Party member founded the KKK. The Democrat Party was the party of Jim Crow, the party of slavery. Nazis are socialists. The left always leans toward racism. The Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, was the party of anti-slavery, and it still is. This is such an ignorant thing to say. You also look at the Democrat Party of today. The Democrat Party of today looks at black people as victims. They want to give them the least that they can give them. They want to give them food stamps and welfare, and they expect their vote from them. And when they attempt to leave the Democrat Party, they are called names. They are called Uncle Toms. They are called racists. To say that most racists are Republicans is honestly, it is a bumper sticker. It is absolute nonsense.
There are people who are going to agree with you and disagree with you. And I hope that we in this country don't believe with a broad cast that they are all racists.
Yeah. You're calling me a racist, kids. I refuse that. I absolutely refuse to be called a racist. Not a racist, never had a racist thought in my life, never espoused any racist views. My kids are not racist. We don't give a crap about race. Oh, my friend wrote me back. I am flabbergasted. I am flabbergasted. Wow. Goodbye, Michael. See you later. Honestly. You can't disagree with the left. You can't disagree. You can't try to speak common sense, even if they're your friends, even if they're your best friends. You can't speak common sense to the left if they've made up their mind that this group is racist. You can't. Even your best friends. I guess it's kind of like the Civil War, right? All I have ever said about Charlottesville was that the Antifa is a violent mob. That people on the right side of the political equation who, well, I won't even say that, because there were Nazis, and Nazis are socialists. They're leftists. Showed up at a protest. They had a permit to protest. The radical left showed up to fight them. That was the reason they were there. They were not there to stand on the sidelines and to counter protest. They were there to physically assault the people who were doing the original rally. And it sucks that there are people there who showed up who are legitimate racists. It really does. But they have every right to be able to speak. And you have every right to either attempt to shout them down or ignore them. You don't have a right to physically attack them. I just can't believe it. I really honestly can't believe my friend, my dear friend, is drawing a line in the sand like this. I hope, Michael, if you're listening to this podcast, I hope you understand how terribly, terribly saddened I am that I can't have a differing opinion than you. It's really sad. University of San Francisco. They're having a segregated orientation dedicated for black students. All right. So what they're doing basically is a black student orientation slated for August the 18th, the day prior to the university's new student orientation. Okay. Do you know how many people suffered and died to segregate black people? Do you know how many people suffered and died to get rid of lunch counters and bus seats that were just expected to have white people in them? Do you know how many people who died and suffered to get rid of blacks and whites only drinking fountains? And now you've got a group of people who are voluntarily segregating themselves. It really is. Yeah, I think I'm speaking common sense here. It really is sad. The day-long event billed as having been designed by black students, faculty, and staff to welcome new black students to the USF Black Experience. There's a lot of word. What's that word that's being used a lot there? The new students? No, black. Will address the specific and particular needs of African-American/black students at USF. The program includes workshops such as community building, creating a 4-year plan. Not hanging out with white people, I think, is part of it. Kim Harris, an assistant director of the orientation program at the private Catholic institution, asked about if there were any other ethnic-based orientation programs there. And Harris said, no, not that I know of, but we do have a mostly first-generation orientation program. The group is comprised mostly of students of color. I'll venture to say, no, it's pretty much all people of color. The Black Student Orientation is being run by Dr. Janina Garrett Walker, an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology at the university. Garrett Walker they tried to reach her for comment regarding the history of the Black Student Orientation, as well as elaboration on the specific and particular needs of African-American black students at USF. Did not respond. She has a history of activism in academia at the university. She had implemented a campus-wide campaign called Check Your Privilege, designed to raise awareness of social inequity and privilege. This bothers me so profoundly because my son is going to go to college next year, and he's a good kid, and he's not a racist. Unfortunately, because of the color of his skin, there are a lot of assumptions being made about him. And I'm just quite simply not going to take this shit if it happens to my son in college. If I have to pursue things, if they get ugly, legally, I certainly will. I will go to the mat for my son. I will defend my son with my life. The campaign defined as privilege defines privilege as unearned access to social power based on membership in a dominant social group. Participants were encouraged to sport T-shirts that indicated the attributes that applied to them with permanent markers. They could check off items such as white, male, Christian, cisgender. If you go to France and you're not French, can you just go over there and claim French privilege? say that other people have French privilege? Don't you think that would make sense? French privilege? One poster associated with the campaign informed readers, if you're confident that the police exist to protect you, you have white male privilege. While another claimed that the expectation of having holidays off of work denotes Christian privilege. Well, go to work then, bitch. Then go to work, all right? On Garrett Walker's website faculty profile, their research area is listed as identity development, identity politics, for Black, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender adolescents and emerging adults. Bravo. Wow. Never have so many words meant so little. Honestly, never have so many words meant so little. Just amazing. Here's some good news. Would you like to hear some good news? Do you remember the story that was buzzing around the country the other day about a professor who said that he was going to let their kids choose their own grades? University of Georgia professor Richard Watson apparently has changed his mind about a policy originally included in his syllabi for his fall business courses that would have allowed students to choose their own grade if unduly stressed. All right. The email said that students could choose the grade they think is appropriate, and it could be changed with no explanation being required. Watson also wrote in the syllabi that his exams will be an open book. Only test for low-level mastery of course material. So you can bring your book, you can bring your laptop, and you can use them. If in a group, also listen to this group, you got to do those group projects. I hated those. Group projects in college are the ultimate examples of socialism. Because in a group project in college, you've got those who really, really want to succeed and really, really want to be excellent. And you've got those who will just tag along and realize that those people who are really, really good will carry your ass. It's socialism 101. I'll never forget it. I did these. It was me, and there was Andy Johnson, who's no longer with us, wonderful person, and Richard Newcomb, and a bunch of other folks. And we busted our asses, and then there was Tony, what's his name over here, and this other guy, and they would not do a damn thing. And there's nothing you can do about it because y'all going to get the same grade, and you can complain to the professor about, Tony not doing anything. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They get the same result. They get the same A, they get the same B, and you carry their asses. Socialism, children. Everybody gets the same salary. Some people really work their butts off. Some people do nothing. Back to the memo from the prof. If in a group meeting you feel stressed by your group's dynamics, you should leave the meeting immediately and need offer no explanation to the group members. Under his original policy, students could discontinue all further group work, with their remaining grade being based totally on non-group work. After serious criticism, the professor changed his mind, I guess. The University of Georgia announced in a statement on August the 8th that Watson's syllabi didn't conform to the university's expectations for academic rigor. The professor has removed this language from the syllabus. Executive Director of Media Communications, Greg Tever, said, in addition, the University of Georgia applies very high standards in its curricular delivery, including a university-wide policy that mandates all faculty employ a grading system based on transparent and predefined coursework. Again, academic gobbledygook. The dean of the Terry College of Business of the university released a statement condemning Watson's pick-your-own-grade policy, saying it's inappropriate. Quote, the syllabus stated that his grading policy would allow students inappropriate input into the assignment of their own grades. I want you to know that the syllabus did not conform to the university's rigorous expectations and policy regarding academic standards for grading. Well, that's kind of nice. Actually admitting you got to be excellent. I know. This is with the generation of kids who all got a trophy for participating. Dean Benjamin Ayers wrote, he explained that this discrepancy to the professor who has removed the statement from his syllabus. Quote, rest assured that this ill-advised proposal will not be implemented in any Terry classroom. The University of Georgia upholds strict guidelines and academic policies to promote a culture of academic rigor, integrity, and honesty. Blah, 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 blah. In other words, get your asses to your classes and be good at what you do. How about that, kids? How about that? Shall we move on from political stuff? Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. CBS report said that Down syndrome has been eliminated in Iceland. And it's good news, right? I mean, Down syndrome has been eliminated essentially in Iceland. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Oh, here's the bad news. It was eliminated because there's a test that you can take when you're pregnant, and if you find out that the baby has Down syndrome, you can just kill it before it's born. That's what happens in Iceland. That's what happens in Iceland. That's what happens in the United States. The only group of children, the only group of people who can be genocidally erased from existence are people with Down syndrome. It's completely legal. It is something that people don't like to admit, but it exists, and it is nakedly obvious. Both of my children, when my wife and I were asked, do you want to do the Down syndrome test for your kids? We said, no. Why did they ask that question? Because they expected a response, which was, yes, we would like to find out if the child has Down syndrome so you can kill it. That's what it's there for. Does Down syndrome to some degree suck? Oh, hell yeah. It really does. But kids with Down syndrome are beautiful people. Do they live up to the standards that you and I do as far as intelligence is concerned? No. Do they exceed us in many ways with kindness and joy, unadulterated love of life, while the rest of us mentally masturbate over stupid crap in our lives? Yeah. I'd venture to say that emotionally, people with Down syndrome are far superior than most of us. They're genuinely good people. I don't know of a single person with Down syndrome who's ever been a mass murderer or a rapist. They're good, sweet, beautiful people. But because they have an IQ that is lower than most, they're murdered in the womb. They are, guys. I mean, and honestly, if you support aborting Down syndrome children, I'll just go ahead and be as inflammatory as those who are accusing me of saying that Nazis should be able to have free speech protests. I'll just go ahead and say you're genocidal maniacs. How about that? Does it make you feel good? CBS reported that a majority of expecting mothers in Iceland are close to 100% terminated their pregnancies when they found out that they had Down syndrome. The kids had Down syndrome. Well, Patricia Heaton had none of this, and I like Patricia Heaton. She says, and this, by the way, she said in 2014, and she's blasting this new report, by the way. She said that Iceland is on pace to virtually eliminate Down syndrome through abortion, and it's true, many of the celebrities on the list are my friends, but when it comes to championing abortion, we go our separate ways. In the Hollywood community, I'm the only one I know who says anything about it. I feel like I'm supposed to. She added, I find it impossible to subscribe to a philosophy that believes that the destruction of human life is a legitimate solution to a problem that is mostly social, economic, and psychological. And she's right. I mean, she's right. Wow, what a day, huh? What a day. Episode number 151 in the can, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to Dr. Alex Nelson, fountainoflifecairo.com, fountainoflifecairo.com for being a proud sponsor of this radio. I don't know if they're very proud, but anyway, they're a sponsor. They're awesome. Fountainoflifecairo.com, grassmonsterskc.com, American-made zero-turning radius mowers, Dixie choppers, hustlers, GrassMonstersKC.com. God bless you guys. Have a glorious day, and we'll see you back here for number 152.
Thanks for listening to The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.